Hello, and welcome to our Saturday night party here in our living room at home. Thank you so much for joining us, and how was our day? Hello, Simon. Thank you for joining us this evening. We're having a sort of lockdown party at home, as we do every night of lockdown or day. This is day 47. Can you believe we've been stuck at home for 47 days? And boy, have I got a rant coming at you today.
Yes, it looks like I don't know what about, but let's have a look.
Well,
Okay, let's listen.
I am very annoyed that me having to stay at home is due to a load of bloody idiots. Hello, Tom, out there. Of course, obviously, you guys watching tonight are the smart ones, but I'm very annoyed at the news that I've been reading today over this bank holiday weekend, and some shocking stuff. The police have been complaining about people who have already decided that the lockdown is open. Hundreds of people having pizzas, beer and wine in the park, sitting in big groups, spreading the virus around, and this is just really not acceptable. It's just really not acceptable because these people in 7 or 8 days' time will be in A&E demanding to be treated for their life-threatening injuries, putting the doctors at risk because of their idiocy, putting the rest of us at risk. It's kind of outrageous. The Coast Guards have had the highest number of call-outs since the lockdown began on Friday, with 97 incidents, and that's 54% more than April's daily average. And people are just going out in the parks in London, and a Hackney police statement. I remember London Fields. I used to live in Hackney, very nice park, where a police spokesman said, "Sadly, we're fighting a losing battle in the parks today." Literally hundreds of people, hundreds of Covidiots sitting there having pizza, beers and wines, and then the police add very graciously, as always, a big thank you to those observing the guidelines. We had to go through central Cambridge the other day, didn't we? And we didn't see very many people at all here.
Nope, it was very desert place.
There's a sort of map that's been published by the Office of National Statistics. Hello, Raymond. Thank you for joining us this evening. It's always good to have you along with us. Now, there's a map that's been published of the UK. I don't know if you can see this on the grainy old picture here. It's from the Office of National Statistics. Oh, yeah, there it shows up a little bit, and it shows you the green spots where there are outbreaks, and that is basically London, Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds. I can see Liverpool, Newcastle upon Tyne, where there are a lot of outbreaks. You'd expect that in cities, I guess, where the population density is higher. A very, very good evening to our super friend Rocker Kev, aka Kevin. Hello, sir. And I've just been having a bit of a rant about all the Covidiots going out today in the park, hundreds of them having pizza and beer and all this kind of thing, and then in a short while, they will turn up at A&E expecting to be treated for this horrid pandemic. That they will be having the symptoms and so forth. And I want to read to you now. Actually, this was something that was posted from a medic online quite recently. It's quite staggering to be perfectly honest, and we absolutely need to address this right here, right now. So this is a lady who's just finished her night shift in A&E. She goes, after last night's night shift, this would have been Friday night, I'd just like to say a massive congratulations to the people of blah blah for completely ruining what little faith in humanity I had left. After all these weeks of lockdown, social distancing and protecting the NHS, what do? You ruin all the hard work and effort in just one night. In our A&E last night, nearly every single patient we had in was drunk with a head injury. We did 12 CT heads and plastered numerous limbs. All our staff were exposed to the many more people unnecessarily, and so were you. Do you know how many of the staff have tested positive to this virus already? I expect we'll be seeing you all again in about 2 weeks when you've got symptoms of virus, and we'll be welcoming in the next wave. so you can stop your clapping. I don't want it. It's now meaningless to me. I just hope it was all worth it. And look, us, the good
Terrible.
guys, and I assume we are all the good guys watching here tonight because, we're doing the thing of staying at home. Hello, Cal, and hello, Paul, and hello, Anushka. You're in the middle of a big rant from me today about it's nice weather, it's a bank holiday weekend, but for goodness sake, why are people breaking it, going out and, for goodness sake, I mean, not my generation, but the one before that had like 2 world wars to put up with, and these guys have had to stay at home, sitting on the sofa with Netflix for a few weeks, and they can't seem to do a very simple instruction like that, which is absolutely tragic because the numbers coming in on the spreadsheets, and Rocker Kevin and I are working on this amazing spreadsheet, which we'll be happy to send free to anybody who wants it, showing not only the curve flattening but everything sort of starting to come down. But then when the Covidiots decide to go out there and partay like it's 1999, which I will point out was more than 2 decades ago, it's wrong. Andy, thank you for joining us on this our little get together from the living room. But I'm angry because I was looking forward to rolling up my sleeves, although I've got very short sleeves. Oh, by the way, do you know what I've done today to confound Kevin? Okay, because Kevin notices when I'm wearing the same shirt 2 days running. So this is what I did. How clever? Is that clever?
Yeah.
Or what? Is that clever or what? So, sorry about that. And but I thought I wouldn't be fair to deceive, so I thought I would just come clean about it. Ed, yes, well, welcome aboard. And you see, my good friends, we're all staying at home right now. It is a pain in the backside. It's lovely, obviously, to stay at home with your beloved, but it is a pain in the backside not being able to go to the park, not being able to go to the museums, the cinema, the restaurants, all the kind of things that you're normally doing.
Cycling along the river.
Yeah, make it worse. And like the highlight of our week now is doing the weekly shop. I mean, come on, that it's come to this. But the idea is that we're all in this together, we're all doing this, and after a few weeks, everything becomes safe and we can go out and play again. Except when there are morons out there, and there's no, and that's to insult morons. To compare the Covidiots to morons is to insult the morons of this world.
It's just so unfair. Not on us. I mean, I understand when we're indoors and we get desperate. We just want to do the normal things that we do. But really, the people who are struggling are the people saving our lives. And the stress they go under, the pain, because they see another human suffering and there's nothing they can do or very little they can do. Plus, they're exposing themselves. It's just so unfair.
It is. And even these bloody idiots, they must have parents, they must have grandparents, so they're putting them at risk too by their stupid, ridiculous behaviour. Hello, Julie. Thank you for joining us. And so today there was a coronavirus professor, a guy called Jonathan Van Tam, who said, and this is quite concerning really, that it's difficult for him to know who is more at risk from COVID-19, whether it's fit black men or obese white men. Now, men, we're not arguing that at all. Men are at risk at this thing more than women, considerably so. I think, out
It's
of every
a common denominator, yeah.
out of every 4 people going into intensive care, 3 of those are men. So boys, we've got to be very, very careful. And some of the at-risk factors of being overweight, and another is sadly what ethnic group you belong to, and for one reason or another, and we're not clear why that is at the moment. It might be to do with vitamin D levels, it might not. Good evening, Renee. But for some reason also, black men are at risk, and even healthy black men. So kind of we're all in this together, fellas and ladies, and so we mustn't go out partying. We must hold it together, and we must try and stay home. And they're being up our way. People are really behaving very well, and looking at the figures, because there's this graph of infographic. That's the word, of casualties around the country. Pretty good in our neck of the woods. Again, the rougher areas of town have the higher incidences of this, where people can't resist, sneaking out to have a beer over the back fence or something with the neighbours or something. And there were some people in Cornwall yesterday who had a great big party in the in the car park of the pub, and really whether or not alcohol was served or not, as the publican was saying, it is neither here nor there. If people are gathering together, if there are germs floating around, they're going to find places to land. I mean, you know, why is our survival dependent on imbeciles? That seems extremely unfair. They should be watching this program, and I should go around there and smack them across the face if they go out. I should be standing outside their front doors, waiting for them to open the front door with a bucket of cold water ready to throw it over them, or something like this. My blood is boiling because it's day 46 now, and think 47, and things are going so loopy that my good friend Mike was redesigning microwave ovens with the help of a little piece of paper and some sellotape, and so when it comes to that, and it's very, very funny, so look at his video on my timeline, but not now. You're in the living room with us, and it would be very impolite to be doing that. Lee, a very good evening to Lee. You remember Lee?
Yes,
from
I do remember.
from
Hello,
the
Lee.
PPN. I hope you're good this evening. My blood is boiling slightly because of people who were breaking the rules over this bank holiday weekend and going out and partying and all that. I don't know, how were things up your way on the south coast? I really hope everybody was being good boys and girls. Do let us know, because the good news is, and Kevin and I've got this spreadsheet. I put lots of numbers in, and then he corrected all the numbers, and then I corrected the numbers he'd corrected already. That's what I was doing last night until 2 a.m. and I didn't realise he'd done it already, because but anyway, and then what Kevin can do, which I can't do, is I can make sort of graphs which look like the graphs that I make on spreadsheets look like a sort of a 6-year-old who is in sort of remedial maths would do. And Kevin, and when he does it, it looks like a sort of professor of mathematics, and these things are dazzly, wonderful, amazing things. But anyway, we see these curves and things that we've been carefully working on. We see not only that the curve is flattened, but we see it start to go down. Just because it's going down a bit doesn't mean we've got to go and party to celebrate. And, Kevin says, do you think the ethnicity figures might be affected by social conditions? Numbers of people living in HMOs and that kind of thing. Yes, that is clearly a factor. But one of the other factors is that vitamin D levels are customarily lower in BAME groups. I'm started taking vitamin D tablets as well now, because we're not getting as much sun as we should, sitting here in the living room waiting for the idiots to go out and party. So that might be that might be a factor too. But whatever it is, if we are male and either black or obese, we need to take special care of ourselves, and because we all want to come out of this alive, we're all in this together. It's a kind of critical time. The message should be pretty simple, shouldn't it, really?
Rant over?
It's what? Beethoven?
Rant over?
It may erupt again later, but I think for now we'll sort of put it on ice for a bit. But it does make your your blood boil, and so this government medical advisor, he's the deputy chief medical officer, Professor Jonathan Van Tam, saying he doesn't know who is more at risk of dying from COVID-19, a 50-year-old slender black man who runs half marathons, so that's a pretty fit kind of guy, or a 32-year-old white man who is extremely overweight. So there you go, two high-risk categories that are emerging from this disease that we don't know much about. We really don't, but we do know that it's a good idea to stay home, if I may say so. The societies with the masks, despite Britain's recommendation to not do it, they've got fewer cases, so there must be something about it, that maybe your coughing doesn't go as far, or whatever it is. Hello, Sean. Thank you for joining us this evening. Lee says, we're very lucky here, of course. It's so beautiful. People are very, very good on the whole, and I'm delighted to hear that. I'm delighted, absolutely delighted to hear that, because obviously Cambridge is a beautiful city as well, and on the whole, people are behaving themselves here as well, which is very gratifying. And It's the least we can do, really, isn't it? 75 years ago, not to labour the point, people were dying on the beaches and elsewhere to protect us from dictatorship and this kind of thing. All we got to do now is sit on the sofa with a pizza and a beer and watch Netflix. So it's not really.
Yeah, talking about beer, in Mexico, I was speaking to my uncle today, and in Mexico they don't sell alcoholic beverage. I mean, what even manufacturers have stopped producing beer and
Wow.
lager.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because so as soon as the stock is sold out, that's it. There's no more production until it's reasonable to do so. So there are no parties or not, because if you do get drunk, I mean, you tend to lose everything. Everything just gets overwhelmed. So I assume that's
Yeah. Yes,
the
quite
thing.
possibly. Earlier, towards the start of this evening's thing, I read out this message, really heartfelt plea from someone who works in A&E, saying that they were seeing people coming in with head injuries and broken arms and this kind of thing after a good old bit of the old Friday night fighting yesterday. Quite unnecessarily, because in addition to that black eye, your friend just gave you COVID.
Oh.
So kind of, come on. Not particularly wise. Good news, though, which is why we're kind of mostly here, apart from the occasional 16-minute rant from this boy in the back to front T-shirt, is the news out of New York. Is that New York is ahead of the virus, and according to the New York governor Andrew Cuomo, New York State has been hardest hit in the USA by this pandemic. Some said that was because they had a more severe strain of the virus than the rest of the United States. That's quite possible because a lot of people flitting backwards and forwards from Europe into New York before that was clamped down upon. So kind of maybe, but they appear that that they're turning the corner. The death and hospitalisation rates for the state are on the way down, and across the US as well, things are kind of settling a bit, which is nice to say. Hawaii had no new confirmed cases of coronavirus on Friday for the first time since the 13th of March, which is magnificent news. Friday was the second day that New Orleans reported no new deaths, and New Orleans has been hit quite hard with this. And so in the US, they're starting to ease some restrictions. 47 out of, is it 52 states, however many states they got, will have eased restrictions by Sunday. So there'll be some combinations of businesses and services and this kind of thing that they're going to be allowed. So, we're kind of slowly recovering. And over here, there is a sort of lockdown plan on the way. Kevin says that he's lucky living on the coast and still being able to get out to the countryside for daily exercise, which is wonderful. Oh, hello to another Kevin, to Kevin McDonald. Thank you for joining us this evening in our living room, where we're just having a few friends around for a little chat, really, and for me to do my occasional rants about things that upset and annoy me ever so slightly. So the newspapers are continuing to speculate about how the lockdown might ease today, and there has been talk of Boris announcing something tomorrow. It wasn't very wise of the government, really was it, to announce on Thursday that they'd be easing restrictions on Sunday, because obviously that gives people carte blanche to go out partying, getting drunk in the park and having pizzas and spreading germs and things like that. So that was a bit of an own goal by the spin doctors and people, but there we are. The Times newspaper suggests today that people who are visiting the UK will have to fill in a digital form and declare an address where they'll be living, and then they will be expected to self-isolate for 14 days there on a sort of honour code system, whereas I would tag them, to be honest.
Yeah, it's similar to what China is doing, or has been doing since the lockdown was raised. They're keeping you on observation for 2 weeks.
But we are going to have some penalties, which is good. If these travellers don't adhere to the rules, they will have fines of up to £1,000 and possibly deportation. There will be spot checks, and if they're found to have been naughty, and I hope there are going to be enough spot checks, then these rules are likely to come in June, according to the Times newspaper, and that would help to prevent the second peak, because the second peak in this in these virusy type things, it very often happens that there are three peaks. Peak number one, that's the one we've had. Peak number two is often a hugely big one, and then peak number three is another, and then the virus fizzles out. So peak number two, make no mistake about it, would be bigger than peak number one if the idiots don't follow the rules. So let's hope they do. Let's hope they do. And you know, I think it's a good thing to sort of lock down on people coming out here. Australia and New Zealand locked down on people. They just locked their borders down tight early on in this, when the first signs of trouble. And this has rewarded them immensely because, for example, in the state where Canberra's the capital, I believe, of Australia, although I wouldn't have known that in a pub quiz. I wouldn't. They've had no new cases at all. So you know, people flying around with bugs, lock it down. Don't let them in. Deal with it in your country. Do contact tracing of the few people around. And that seems to work very, very well. Don't have 3,000 people from a hotspot in Spain flying in for a football match and wandering around Manchester and Liverpool, okay?
Yeah, that's what happened at the beginning.
It is, and a Stereophonic concert. And the Stereophonics are a great band, but don't have a concert when there's a big pandemic. Hello.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We lose perspective, I suppose. But anyway, rant over.
Yeah, well, until the next one. Russia, you see, is another place where we didn't hear anything about coronavirus, did we, in Russia? And we kind of thought that everything was okay there, but it was not. And it was a question of really them not testing anybody. And in places like Belarus, just sticking their heads in the sand, which obviously isn't Russia. Belarus had a parade marking the 75th anniversary of VE Day with thousands of folk there, including the elderly veterans. I mean, how insane is that? So you know, I was very happy yesterday about VE Day, and today I'm disappointed at people whose celebrations caused their brains to lag behind. South Korea, as we know, don't they, with South Korea, but this is quite a salutary kind of lesson for us in a sense, because we know that South Korea was very good in locking down early and containing this virus, and that was all over the news, wasn't it? How exemplary they were. Well, they have now been easing their restrictions, but on Saturday, which is today, isn't it, actually, they had to shut down more than 2,000 clubs and bars because there was a new cluster of cases due to one person who went out while infected.
Oh dear.
So you know, that's why we've all got to do it. It doesn't matter if most of us do it. We've all got to do it, and we're all in it together. We've all got grandmothers and others that we need to look after. So you know, let's hope that that things look up moving forward in a kind of very positive way. And this is bad news. Okay, so a good bicycle is hard to find, reports the Guardian newspaper, because some would-be cyclists, and not us regular folks who cycle every day and are not cycling at the moment during lockdown, the would-be cyclists have cleared stores of all the best bicycles.
Luckily we have ours, but yeah, if you want to get a new bicycle, it's going to be hard to find, I suppose.
Absolutely. I'm annoyed with Isabel. Isabel had not ridden a bike since university 10 years ago, when lockdown motivated her to go out and buy some bikes. Buy a bike. Half a dozen cycle shops in South London gave her the same answer. No chance, we're out of stock. So actually I sympathise with Isabel, and it's the other ones. They're the naughty folks. But actually, I mean, you know, it's not a bad idea. If there are roads to cycle on, you can be away from people. And Have you got some thoughts to share with us to sort of break up the dismal ranting of this boy in the back to front T-shirt?
Well, basically, no. The thought is that I just want to refresh. This is a fan.
What is this?
It's a handheld fan, which is an air conditioning.
La sopa es primero.
Yeah, this is an air conditioning unit, and basically it has got instructions at the back, right? And it says take handle in right hand, put thumb on one side, and first 3 fingers on the other. Your pinky will be left over. Move the fan right and left or right, or up and down, or down and up. The above action will make air movement and should cool your face or whatever. Our
Wow.
system is 100% hygienic and safe. Other air conditioning systems make noise, are obnoxious, give shocks, and are bad for the lungs.
Well, indeed, and this is a very convenient one. You can pack in your suitcase, and if you turn it around, it sort of disappears completely. So, what La Sopa es primero is first?
Soup is first. Soup is
Soup
first.
first. Well,
So that's it.
that's what I thought it said. But what's that got to do with the fan?
So, but yeah,
We must tell you as well that other air conditioning units are available, and also I'm glad that you're doing this in the correct fashion, because if I did it in the wrong fashion, I'll just borrow this moment. See, it wouldn't work at all because I'm not using the right fingers and thumbs and things. It just doesn't work.
Everything has the technique. Everything else. So that's my thought for today. How to use a fan, a handheld fan.
It's one of your thoughts for today.
Yeah.
It's a good one. It's a cracker. So Brompton, the bicycle manufacturer, make 50,000 folding bicycles a year, and they've seen their number of online sales since April multiply by 5. And Halfords has reported a strong performance as well. Although when we passed Halfords the other day on our legitimate shopping trip, sort of shopping combined with exercise trip, because the exercise is this bit. And of the trip and the shopping bit was to get some vitamin D, which we eventually got at a different we eventually got a different store. Anyway, but it was a useful exercise, I think, and something that we were very happy to sort of take part in and rattle off. And outside Halfords yesterday, what we saw was a couple of police who are not arresting revellers or anything, but it looked as though they popped in for a little service, an oil change or something, in their big police-mobile from the Halfords gentleman who was helping them out.
Mm-hmm.
Let us have some more thoughts, beloved.
Right. Basically, we can go out and look places. We were getting into routine, going to see a play or a concert or something like that from time to time, once a month.
What was our last one? Was it that one in the Royal Albert Hall?
Yes.
With those fabulous people.
Lucia, yeah. And in fact,
Cirque
talking
du
about
Soleil.
Yeah, Royal Albert Hall. Also, we have the Virtually London, and if you visit London.com, it shows you the different options that you have in order to entertain yourself from the comfort of your own home, in terms of plays and several artists doing perhaps the same kind of thing that we're doing from their own homes, and just having a kind of session for you if you like that kind of thing. So yeah, that's what I found today about the Virtual London. Visit London.com. So nice website for you to have a look and entertain yourselves if you are fed up on Netflix or any other. It is just so unreal. At the beginning of the lockdown, we thought, okay, we got this sorted. Yes, we're gonna get on with it. And honestly, it has been tiring. It has been up and down. There has been cases in which we go through all the emotional cycle, the ups and downs of all the emotional things that you can have as a human person and perception. So it's not simple. It's not easy, but we know we have to do it. And so I came with this kind of reflection about courage, compassion, and authenticity. So we need to be courageous in terms of surviving this lockdown, building yourself from scratch, rekindling the relationships that we should care the most, and just live with love. Basically, love is what it's all about. Any more thoughts on that, David?
Yeah, well, all you need is love, as the Fab Four said. Those boys from Liverpool, and it absolutely oils the wheels. It keeps the world going round. Love is all at the butterfly ball, as Roger Glover said with his guests at one point, and which was a rather strange thing from a former member of Deep Purple to do. If you've ever seen the video of that song, it's a cracker.
If I might share one of the Rumi poems from Rumi, Whispers of the Beloved. He says, "With love you don't bargain there. The choice is not yours. Love is a mirror. It reflects only your essence. If you have the courage to look in its face, that is." And this is a very nice one, David. And if you have your beloved, it'd be nice if you were to share these kind of Rumi words. To place you in my heart may turn you into thought. I will not do that. To hold you with my eyes may turn you into thorn. I will not do that. I will set you on my breath, so you will become my life.
What a beautiful thought. That's lovely. That is lovely.
Over to
Very, very
you.
nice. So, yeah, I'm going to have to, on this little computer here, log into Facebook so I can show you some graphs. And they're quite interesting. These are screenshots from the thing that I've been working on with my good friend Kevin. And they illustrate quite starkly the difference, the road ahead that's facing us right now. I think we will have a quick look at these. So these are the two possibilities, and this is kind of like looking at deaths from coronavirus. Frankly and starkly, these are the choices facing us right now. And I think it's good to have a look at that before we go on to our funny bit where we look at what the people were asking on the podium today and our answers rather than the spin doctory ones. So this is the sort of bad scenario if we all miss. Oh my goodness me, what happened there? You can't.
I was drinking your tea.
Oh,
I'm
that's okay.
sorry.
Feel free. No, I don't mind about that. But it just so look, it's just a bad outcome. So these are the kind of deaths, and that little bit on the at the bottom there, on this side, the little bit at the bottom, is where we're at right now, which is fine. And then we see it massively going up. We see it massively going up. Now that is if we're and there's a gap, and that indicates that the gap there indicates where we are now. So that's the bad scenario where we hit, according to this projection, 4,000 deaths a day by July, which would be awful. And that's if we misbehave and we all go out and we don't have social distancing and everything kind of falls apart. But the good news is if we all continue being good boys and girls, here's the same graph where we see it's a slightly different scale. So the current today's thing looks a bit of a higher peak, but it's just on a different level of scale. And then we see it completely fizzling away. At the end here, we see a complete disappearance of the COVID as we get over this spike. So that I thought was quite a dramatic demonstration of the stark choices we face. We can beat this thing. We can beat it.
I see a gap in between graphs. What does that mean, David?
There's a gap in the middle of the graph, which I'll show you again there. A fairly obvious gap, which looks like the sort of a tooth in a child's mouth or something. It's right in the middle there, if you can see that. And what that illustrates is on the one side of that is the actual existing figures, and on the other side of that are our predictions. So up to there is what's actually going on, and then beyond there we might be in a situation where it just tails away very nicely until we've got like one new case on the 1st of July, or we might have 4,000. And both of those are within the bounds of the maths dictated by this virus and us behaving or not. And so they should send all these people in the park, the police should round them up, they should send them, another round coming, for remedial maths lessons, so that they understand that this virus has a tendency, it wants to grow like that, it wants to grow exponentially, it loves shooting up to the thing. If one person with this virus can mean they had to lock down 2,000 bars in South Korea because of an outbreak, then that shows you how important it is to trace all the people who've got it and for all those people to stay at home and to find them or even lock them up if they don't.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Or deport them back to wherever it was they needed to be deported to. So there's that. Just a minorosity. And we will be seeing more cycling. We'll be seeing. We'll be applauding the NHS. We will be seeing carbon emissions go right down, and it would be nice to keep them down, wouldn't it? But that maybe is just wishful thinking. There's a new Banksy artwork in Southampton applauding the NHS workers. It's called Game Changer. And it's a boy playing with a figurine of a nurse in a superhero cape, while his discarded Batman and Superman toys are watching from a nearby dustbin. I think that's nice, because those are our real heroes. And let's face it, people can't normally jump up the side of buildings or fly through the air, but people can save lives by being selfless and making incredible sacrifices.
That's right. David, are you feeling a bit impecunious?
Well, I think all of us are, given the fact that we haven't been working for 8 weeks or whatever it is, and the old coffers are a bit empty. So yeah,
How did you know the meaning of that
I
word?
knew that
Oh my
I knew that
God.
from Latin, where pecunia is money.
Right, there I was thinking I was going to, well, I was trying to be smart, but no, I can't win with that brain. But
I
yes,
don't know in Coed, but so
it,
you asked me the wrong one.
impecunious is a fancy alternative to having no money. It may be that you are a spendthrift and that money just slips through your fingers. More probably, you simply don't have it to spend. So, but I hate you.
Yeah, I'll have to show you which one to ask me on each page. What have we done?
No, but if I show you, you will know.
Well, of course, I'll read it up quickly. Like
I know,
I
that's-
just read in Coed while you were reading
Yeah.
Impecunious, so you can't ask it me now.
That's
But
not fair.
Dilo,
Not
always
fair.
be one step ahead, huh? Um, 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 so another thing that's going on, communities. It's nice the way communities have rallied. I think you were looking at our WhatsApp group, weren't you? Our local one. You were saying it's terribly busy.
Yeah.
But another thing people are doing is they're having virtual raffles, and I'm sure the Lottery and Gaming Board are sort of turning a blind eye to it and all everything with all the rebs to help businesses that are locked up through this period, and communities are raising thousands of pounds through online raffles to support their online shops and other businesses, and I think that's nice. It's our way of giving something back. It's our way of saying thank you. I mean, like we've got at the end of our road a little printing firm, and obviously and they print leaflets and things. People go out of their way to use them. When I need a photocopy, I specially go down there to do it. We've got a scanner here, but just stuff like that. So it's nice to not forget these guys in times of trouble. Now, why then? Why, coming back to what you were saying about Mexico and beer, why in England are the wine, spirit and beer shops a necessity? Why are they key workers?
Just to keep you calm and relaxed, I suppose.
I mean, the Soviet Union back in the, I was going to say good old days, back in the bad old days, they used to use this old Roman trick of bread and circuses to keep their people in check. And I don't think they had much in the way of circuses. I shouldn't think Soviet television was exactly a blast back then, to be honest. Here is the news. So we have increased our production quotas. I should imagine it was kind of like that. I don't know, I wasn't there. But in terms of the bread part, vodka and all that was hugely subsidised so that everybody in the Soviet Union was permanently sloshed. And that's how that society managed to sort of muddle through for quite as long as it did. It's a miracle it didn't implode earlier on, I guess. So no, I didn't know. Oh my God. Kevin tells me that little Richard passed today at the good old age of 87, to be fair, but not of the virus, or not being a stated cause. His cause of death was said to be bone cancer. But I remember Tutti Frutti, oh Rudy, and all of his work. We were watching him only the other day. Just for the hell of it. We watch a lot of music actually together during the course of the week, and then most of the best things we watch, then I forget to put them on the rock show, because there's a lot of great songs out there. But we're definitely going to have Johnny Depp on the show with Jeff Beck this week.
That's right.
What have you got there?
Just basically being indoors, it just can trigger some, like I was saying, a few emotional, but and one of them could be anxiety of being indoors, and more so, if not us ourselves, because we're supposed to be mature, perhaps the younger people that lives with us, if you happen to have someone living with you, and basically it says this is one of the writings we did with one of my friends in 2006. Anxiety is unpleasant, but it is rarely harmful. It is important to understand the messages that your body and mind are sending, and it is vital that your symptoms are seen for what they are, and nothing more than a reaction of. You need to understand the symptoms, the triggers, and it says no one can make you panic but yourself. You are the only person upsetting you. What you need to do is let fear roll off you like water off a duck's back. Talk yourself out of it and don't give up easily. All habits don't die hard. You can change quickly and effectively. Also, if you are young and happen to have these things, you use it as a resource to help you cope, but really it's something that you need to control. Don't stop and freeze and get more tense. Don't back off from these sensations, acknowledge them. Don't try to stop them, allow them, let them happen with acceptance. Don't add extra anxiety or stress or fear to it. Get used to the symptoms, not the place or people's. See no longer matters. So basically, it's just a way of, if you happen to going through that kind of thing, just acknowledge it and just move on, and apply some kind of inner confidence in the form of self-love, which it means you have to value both your physical and emotional needs and place them on an equal footing with the needs of others. You need to feel justified in your attempts to get these are met in appropriate way. You need to be open with your demands for praise, reassurance, and rewards, but don't try and manipulate anyone. Enjoy being nurtured by others, but don't need it. Become an expert at doing it for yourself. Your self-worth. You need to be aware of your strengths and appreciate them. Know the weaknesses. Firm up yourself. Identify. And be content as an individual as well as a couple.
Hello to Claudia, who's just joined us. It's very nice to have you on the thing tonight in our living room.
Hello, Claudia.
As we approach Mexican Mother's Day, which is only a few hours off, and I hope that you and Irma and the rest of the chicas are going to have a get together on Zoom tomorrow.
I meant to put it together today.
You were meant to put it together, but anyway, this is going to happen. So don't worry. For sure, I'm going to supervise this being set up tonight so that it can happen tomorrow, because that would be a wonderful way to have a sort of virtual gathering.
Yes, now, we are very, very, very lucky that the Mexican people living here in the UK, because we celebrate Mothering Day twice, which is the Mothering UK Sunday, and the 10th of May is a set date for Mother's Day in Mexico. So we used to get together, but not anymore.
It's a bit like the Queen with her birthday, isn't it? Because she gets 2 in the year, which means she's really 180.
We queens ourselves. So Cal,
hello. Sorry I didn't welcome you to our gathering tonight, because the screen here didn't indicate that you joined. But Cal says she's listening to the King of Gospels album, Little Richard Sings the Gospel, powerful and moving. Precious Lord, take my hand. And the architect of rock and roll is no longer with us. He was a legend. He was one of those few people like Chuck Berry who were there right at the start of rock and roll, who took ownership, made it their own, and defined the genre. Without these guys, without Little Richard, I wouldn't have a rock show every Tuesday night. I'm telling you, no doubt about that whatsoever, because he was a groundbreaker. And absolute, and he was an absolute rocker, was Little Richard. His stage shows were quite legendary. Cal says she met him unexpectedly and said, "Good golly, Miss Molly," and he sang it to her and danced and sang wildly. Isn't that a wonderful? Wow, Cal, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. You met Little Richard. Wow.
Wow.
I can now say that I've met somebody who met Little Richard.
I have met her personally. Cal is my friend.
But I'm saying, well, I've met Cal personally too. I'm saying,
oh, yes, you have. Yes,
I have. Yes, I have. Hello.
God.
I mean, my goodness me. We have to put the world to rights, don't we, Cal? Well, But not only have I met somebody who's met Little Richard, but I've met somebody who's met Little Richard.
Excellent.
I know.
You're very blessed.
Yeah. So do you remember we were showing some pictures a couple of weeks ago about some people who were kind of dining in a restaurant where they were all in greenhouses, really, and the greenhouses, instead of tomatoes in them, had diners in them in this restaurant. Well, apparently this is catching on. So now there's a restaurant in the Netherlands doing something similar, where you have a small glass cabin. Let's call a greenhouse, okay? And they got them from their equivalent of B&Q, okay? They got a discount because they ordered 20. But you sit there with a table. It's a bit weird, really, isn't it? It's a bit kind of...
I think it's quite good.
Yeah.
I think it's quite good because it gives you privacy. Yet you can see other people dining near you, but they still have the conversation in quite confidence.
So they're trying this out for friends and family over the next few weeks.
I think it's a good idea.
And meanwhile, just down the road in Belgium, which is next door to the Netherlands, last time I checked, they're going to have a sort of... you're going to be allowed to have 4 people who can visit you in your household.
That's good.
As I said, we gradually get back to normal. Hopefully, they would be people who are isolating the way you are, and I think that would be something to check. We are a pair, aren't we, Cal? I mean, honestly. Well, There's nothing quite like us really out there. So in Belgium, yeah, you're going to be able to nominate some friends who can join you at home. Only 4 people, but here's the thing. It's got to be the same 4 people. You're going to have to, a bit like when you're in prison or something, and you have to. Last time I was in the scrubs, I had to make a list of people, and I said, well, Irma can visit me, and my friend Fiona and all that. And I was doing 38 years for bank robbery, and that was. And I went in very early, you see, so I was only 38, so I'm still inside. This is all a virtual backdrop, but yeah, nominating those 4 friends who can visit you could be a bit awkward if later on you change your mind, or if you've got 5 uncles, which uncle do you leave off, and this kind of thing, and you're going to be disinherited by the one you left off. So make sure you don't leave off the rich uncle, because that would be a bit of a bummer. So, well, yeah, so that rich uncle, we'll nominate him and 3 of his relatives, actually, and forget the others.
That's terrible.
Forget the kind one. I know, but yes, well, so yeah,
Where were we?
we're thinking about T-shirts. We had an idea for a T-shirt, didn't we, for COVID?
You did.
Why didn't we market it? It would have been easier. I actually found a store that would have shipped it, and we were all ready to go. And it was very, very funny. But anyway, we might do it again, so I can't tell you what it was, really. We might still do it, because there's still a bit of lockdown to go. Over 60s have been warned they may not be able to holiday overseas for a year. So that's me. But I'd already decided
Right,
that.
darling,
I'll
send you a postcard.
So that's a song. That's a wonderful song by Shocking Blue.
Oh, really?
Send me a postcard, darling, which we're going to be listening to in about a quarter of an hour when we finish this, and maybe you will as well. I'll post a link to it on YouTube. Send me a postcard, darling. I wanna be. Anyway, so yeah, enough of that. Yeah, there's a priest in San Fiorano, which is in Lombardy in Italy, which was one of the worst hit regions there. And he's had a loudspeaker from a car with residents gathering at their windows and doorways as he passes by. That's a great idea. But I guess they wouldn't get to hear the whole sermon, but mostly people don't anyway, because they kind of nod off halfway through, don't they? As it goes on, No offence if you're a padre out there. I'm sure you're doing a great job, but we'll get you a megaphone. We'll have a whip round and some crowdfunding for megaphones for the services and things. So schools are reopening a bit in Germany. In Thailand, some traditional some traditional dancers performed in face shields at a shrine in Bangkok. So it's starting. The opening up is starting, and as long as everybody's sensible, which I think the chances of that having are about 0, but if everybody were to be sensible in that sort of ideal world that we see in, I don't know, the original series of Star Trek or something, where everybody lives in an ideal sort of paradise type world. You see, the original Star Trek, that proves that we all get over COVID, because they live in the, 2119 or something.
Oh dear.
And there's no viruses there, so there you go. Star Trek proves it. We're going to get over it. A Doctor Who, I don't think has ever been back to 2020, so we'll have to wait. We'll have to wait for that. Now here's a lady called Erica Banks. No relation to Banksy. There she is, and there she is. She's looking happy. She's a bride to be, and she had to solve the problem of the hen do, and so she did it virtually.
Oh, really?
She was originally going to go to a girly Scottish retreat, and Cal will have to tell us where that might be, because it doesn't say in the article. But in the event, she spent her lockdown Saturday at home, doing 10,000 steps and thinking about what might have been. But her fiance and her pals had a better idea, so they did a sort of virtual hen do. And here are some of them. And they were all, zooming in or whatever for her. There's a whole bunch of them, and so that is ever so nice. And this will be Irma and her friends tomorrow on Mexican Mother's Day, because we're going to organise this as soon as we do finish this live. So be warned. And there's a bunch more of Erica Banks's friends, and they all got together online. This is a mega event to celebrate her birthday, her hen day, her forthcoming nuptials and whatever, and the chief organizer was her old school pal, who said that she thought Erica might be a wee bit sad. I guess you probably would be. So you know, the fiance was able to. He was in on the deal because he was hiding the bits and pieces that would be needed for the big reveal when just at the right time when his bride to be was surprised. But it's a very nice story, and there are the two of them together, and may they have long and happy lives together and plenty of sprongs. Yes,
Children.
that too.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh.
So, yes, Carol, you've heard me ranting a bit about people not observing lockdown. Oh, don't let me go there. For VE Day, in London, people were descending on parks in their hundreds with beer and pizza. The Coast Guards had twice as many call-outs on Friday as during as the peak in April. So yeah, I partly blame the government because they announced on Thursday or something that Boris was going to be easing the lockdown on Sunday. So everybody's going, way, you know, they just went out anyway, not realising that the easing of the lockdown means that like two of you will be able to go into Sainsbury's in future instead of one or something like this. But they decided it was just going to be a free-for-all in the park. And very disturbingly, I read out a message which I will read out again. Actually, this was a message from a medical professional that was posted on Friday night, and this is disgraceful. This is somebody working in A&E who says, after last night's shift, I'd just like to say a massive congratulations to the people of blah blah, the area where she's working, for completely ruining what little faith in humanity I had left. After all these weeks of lockdown, social distancing and protecting the NHS, what do? You ruin all the hard work and effort in one night. In our A&E last night, nearly every patient we had in was drunk and had a head injury. We did 12 CT heads and plastered numerous limbs. All our staff were exposed to so many more people unnecessarily, and so were you. Do you know how many of our staff have tested positive to this virus already? I expect we'll be seeing you all again in about 2 weeks when you've got symptoms of the virus, and we'll be welcoming in the next wave. So you can stop your clapping. I don't want it. It's now meaningless to me. I just hope it was all worth it. That's a terrible, terrible, terrible post to read on Facebook today. And you know, it shows that just a few idiots can ruin it for everybody, and that, you know, why do you think we're doing these every day? It's so that we can be at home together and all have fun and enjoy ourselves despite lockdown and everything, do the socially responsible thing. And there's nobody who's more of a rebel than me. I was out there in the captain's cabin on Radio Caroline and all that kind of stuff. But this is a time to stay home, whether the government says it or not. This is a time to stay home, so that the germ which passes between people can't. It's just bleeding obvious. But sadly, you know, as I say, not for everybody, and that really does you know, annoy me. These are people with half a brain cell between 6 of them, and so, as I think I said at the outset, it's a bit like Darwin, where Darwin had survival of the fittest. Well, this virus is for survival of the smartest, and all the dumbasses are gonna go to A&E. But sadly, they're going to be risking the lives of the medical professionals who have sworn an oath to save them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
I think that's
very
what that
very
is the
sad.
essence of us staying indoors. It's just to not overwhelm the system and really to stay alive, and to save the lives of the soldiers in the forms of key people or key workers, namely people from the NHS, people delivering food and keeping the little wheels that this country has got at the moment in terms of economy.
Now, it's perfectly possible to celebrate VE Day and maintain social isolation, as this picture from the Guardian newspaper shows. It's a little girl who's chalked in on the ground a 75-year VE Day celebration. She's all on her own there. Her mum is a long way away, taking a photo, although presumably she's been staying with mum, so that would have been all right anyway. But she goes, "To those who gave so much, we thank you." And this is just as applicable to our doctors, our nurses, and our support staff in our hospital, as it is to the veterans, who many of whom gave their lives too. to bring about the cessation of hostilities in Europe here. Well, this is a nice thing. This is a nice picture.
Cozy
We'll finish
warmer,
today
yeah.
with a few pictures here of stuff that's been going on. So, yeah, I want one. I want one. This is a tea cozy thing. In fact, a whole load of them with an egg underneath, a little face on it, and that makes me hungry. You know, I'm going to have to go downstairs. I'm feeling a bit peckish now. I'm very
Never.
suggestible in that way. Well, yeah, and
So
and
David eats and eats and eats and eats, and it doesn't put an ounce on weight. How do you do it?
So that's an egg cozy that's been made for VE Day. These were some twins who arrived on VE Day. I don't think they were made specially for the occasion, but you know, it's very nice. And I think there were some twins somewhere that were named Corona and COVID. But I mean,
Oh,
come
come
on,
on.
I do remember reading this. It's a bit it's imagine
Probably
living with
fake
that for the rest
news.
of your life. No, I don't think it was actually. I don't think it was. No, there was an article about it.
I know it's the name Cody. Yeah,
Yeah.
but not COVID.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I do know that COVID-19 sounds like "Come on, Eileen," but you know we talked about that yesterday. So yeah, enough of this doodling and schmoodling. So how interestingly, and I don't know whether it's possible to sort of hold this up.
Probably not. It's too small a picture.
It's a bit on the small side. Yeah, if we click on it, it'll be bigger. This is something that Kevin
Oh, wow.
has showed me, and this is really good. Actually, this is some little for geeky boys like me. This is geek heaven. It's these are some. They don't show up very well on the screen there, but these are little graphs of how the virus has peaked and fallen in countries as far apart as Azerbaijan or Germany or Portugal or Israel, all of them, Iran, all seeing a decline after the initial spike, because basically they were in lockdown and not really, with one or two exceptions, not really showing much of a resurgence of it, which is good. We are on a sort of 18-month struggle. The Second World War went on for how many years? 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 7 years. We'll be certainly done and dusted in this at 18 months at the outside, maybe even by Christmas. And we don't have to be in any trenches. We don't have to be shooting over the top at people we don't like or whatever, or people we do like. And you know, so look, we don't have to be shot at. We don't have to wear a tin hat when we go out. All we have to wear is a little cotton mask. So you know, there are no doodle bugs flying overhead, or you know, there's no blitzkrieg going on. Our homes are not going to be blown up, and so you know, it could be a lot worse. And if we all pull together and do the right thing, etc., and so on and so forth, and you know, saluting the brave people who are making it possible for us to do the right thing. And we've got the key workers, we've got the people in the shops delivering all the stuff for us. We've got the medics racing to help us on a day-to-day basis. Cal says, and I completely agree, talking about the Covidiots. What do you mean half a brain? You are too generous, David. Absolutely so. These guys have a big vacant space, cotton wool, in between their ears, and I yearn for the days when the police could go around and clip a kid round the ears, and the parents would thank them for it, because they didn't do it gratuitously. They didn't do it for fun. If some little oik was stealing from the shop or something, the policeman would come and sort of pull you up by the ear or something and say, "Don't do it again, off home," you know, and you would remember that lesson for a long time, and that's what stopped me going to Alcatraz. So, you know, let me tell you, although actually it never happened to me, the police, I was good boy, but, you know, so I made that bit up. But I do think a little bit of that kind of thing didn't really hurt people. I don't think we got a traumatised generation from getting a clip round the ear from the teacher or the policeman.
Yeah, but we were
That's
supposed
just me
to be
thinking.
more civilized in terms of society. So
Ah,
we
yeah.
don't need all these kind of physical things. We're supposed to be.
Well, we're supposed to, but it's failed miserably on the bank holiday weekend. You see, so kind of. I would love the police to be able to give them a clip round the ear, but then the police would be had up for assault or something. Moronic cretins. I agree, absolutely so, Cal. And you know, our teachers used to cane us. My dad hit me once with his leather strap when I did something insanely foolish and disobedient, and you know, it didn't traumatise me for life. It didn't. Here I am. I haven't needed counselling or therapy or anything like that. But that's just my opinion, which I voice, and I rest my case. Yeah, there you go.
Right then. So I think we need to say goodnight.
We do. Who's going to say good night first? Have you got a thought for the day, for the night, for us? Because
Right.
you always have a good one. You always have a good one, and that's the highest part of our day,
Yes, yes. Well, this it reflects is from the little book of wisdom from the Holiness the Dalai Lama, and it says happiness can't be bought. Mental peace cannot be injected by any doctor. No market can sell mental peace or happiness. Make your own.
Absolutely so. Absolutely so. Now, I have to say that Kevin agrees with me. He says he got the slipper at school for talking in church and never did him any harm. Nobody is more normal,
Are you sure?
balanced, and lovely than my very good friend Kevin, aka Rocker Kev. We've been mates now for more than 20 years, I think it is. I think it's more than 20 years, and he's a lovely guy.
Goodness.
And I wish we got a chance to meet up more often, but kind of due to coronavirus, in a sense, we sort of do now because he's popping round for hours for a cup of tea now every evening, as are you. Hello to Kevin from Ipswich. I hope your day went well today, and that the weather was nice in Ipswich, as it was today in Cambridge. How many times did we go out today into the sunshine, Emma?
None.
A big fat zero. Was that good? Well, in a sense it was, because we were supposed to do that and we didn't spread any germs. In another thing, it was a real bummer because we've got a tiny garden, which is too small to go into. So we sat in the house all day reading online about people who went to the park and had beers and pizza.
Well, you did. I was working doing something else.
But that really sort of got up my nose today. It really did. And unfortunately, now that has traumatised me and scarred me for life.
I can see that. Yeah,
Ah.
the rant went for a bit too long. But anyway, thank you very much for tonight.
So, yeah, and I'm just thinking, how am I going to disguise tomorrow wearing the same T-shirt for Kevin? Because he's pretty sharp. If I turn it inside out, will that
Oh my
help?
God!
I mean,
no,
I don't know.
don't. God.
Just a thought. Just a thought. But we'll have to maybe tie dye it or something and put some yellow streaks about it. Or if I just have some ketchup or something with my supper yesterday, it'll have patterns down it. Yeah, exactly. There you are. David was here. So we'll work on that because I only own 2 T-shirts. It's all coming out now. The secrets. I'll have to borrow one of your dresses tomorrow or something.
Oh my God.
Or whatever. Now there's a scary thought. So who knows where this is all leading up? But I do know that what we're doing as soon as we get off here is we're going to sit down and we're going to message all our chicas because it's Mexican Mother's Day, and we're going to set up a Zoom call tomorrow. But we're going to do that today. We're going to message them tonight to sort of pave the way, and then you and I are going to learn how to use Zoom in order to do that. And we are really going to do this, and let's hold us accountable so that when we come on tomorrow, the first thing we're going to ask Irma is, did you get the Mexican Mother's Day celebration going? And the questions, no, we haven't run out of time, and thank you so much, Kevin, for reminding me, because we do,
Oh, yes.
and not only Kevin very kindly dug up the
today's?
questions, but we said earlier that we were going to do it, and when you get to our age and the old bath chair and all that, you'll forget what day of the week it is and all that. Cal says, we all went to the same prison. Oh, I mean school. I think I was right first time, lol. Well, yeah, and we're pretty good citizens and whatever, notwithstanding. So now it's very difficult because I've got this keyboard, which looks like a Sinclair ZX81, doesn't it? That was an entire computer made by an English bloke at some point. It was as idiosyncratic as you'd expect from Mr. Clive Sinclair, whose daughter I once knew. So let us go back here onto the old. Technology is the most remarkable thing actually, because you can do all sorts of things with your. This is a snazzy computer, but this is Irma's computer. This is not my computer with a thin screen like that. But I'm allowed to borrow it for these lives, so it looks impressive. You see, it looks like we're in the 21st century. The End COVID site splits countries into those doing well with this virus, nearly there, having conquered it, and those who need to do a bit better. And in contrast to the ones that I was showing you, the ones who need to do a bit better are countries like Panama, Romania, and the UK. So there you go. I think I got that the right way around. But the UK is certainly, we are the naughty boys who are not doing it properly. And so scrolling back here to the questions that were asked from the people of the podium, and then they had about 10 civil servants working on an answer and wording it and rewording it. They had a conference to discuss what the answer would be, which is, of course, what we do on these broadcasts when we give our alternative. Was it Channel 4 once did, for a long time, he used to do the alternative Queen's Christmas message, where they'd have someone like Julian Clary doing it at 3 o'clock on a Christmas Day afternoon. But this is the alternative view from the podium, and we are going to be doing this every day. So Stephen from County Durham says, I live in the northeast of England, 170 miles away from Edinburgh, and double that distance from London. Should I follow the advice of the First Minister for Scotland or that of Downing Street? Well, Stephen from County Durham, they've both messed it up, so I recommend that you follow the advice of somebody like Angela Merkel or the Premier of Australia or somebody from South Korea, where they've managed the lockdown quite well and got the numbers down, and everybody who followed their guidance did extremely well. Boom. So that's my answer to question 1. Are we okay with that?
We're on the same level, yeah.
Question 2, and I had to consult with a lot of civil servants to get that answer out there. You know, it took a great deal of consultation to vet that question and get that sorted. So, Tammy from Bristol says, opening schools and colleges is a very important topic for many people, but how do you plan to implement social distancing rules in education settings? Children, especially primary age and younger, will find it difficult to keep to these rules. What we will do is we will tell these children in no uncertain terms to stay apart from one another, and we will give the teacher a taser, and they will taser everyone who comes within 2 meters of any other child. How does that sound?
God.
How does that sound? So that's my
Toby
proposal.
didn't hear that.
That's my proposal. It sounds simple yet effective, but how do you know? After the first half a dozen or so, I think the other kids will get the message.
That's your opinion.
And then the teacher would only have to go bzzz, and the kids would go no, and step back without even needing to taser more than about half a dozen of them. And any parents who complained about that, you taser them too. And good evening, Michael. We're just being our usual quiet selves in our living room this evening, and we were just doing our alternative spin on what the questions that were asked at the podium. I mean, there's this thing of taking questions from the public at this podium. It's very sort of Soviet Union, isn't it, really? Because they get a million questions and they choose 2, and then they sort of work out the sort of answer, which is going to be sort of very carefully phrased so as not to upset the apple cart. But we tell it like it is on here, and I wouldn't want it any other way.
That's right.
Since we've overrun by a good 6 minutes, 7 minutes over our allotted time span, I think we're going to have another closing thought from Irma. Because we can't just leave it hanging in midair like we did yesterday. When I thought quite cleverly, we said, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day, by way of homage to Dame Lynn. But today we've got to do a different thing.
Can you tell me the tune we're going to go listen first for from Little Richard today?
A tune. I would be inclined. I don't think we'll listen to the gospel ones first that Cal's listening to. I think we'll listen to one or two of his famous ones, like Tutti Frutti, oh Rudy, oh bab, and we were listening to that about a week ago, not knowing that he was ill, and pleased that he was still alive.
And the thought that I can leave you with is from Timber Hawkeye. It says, you can't calm the storm, so stop trying. What you can do is calm yourself. The storm will pass.
That's very, very, very true. Very, very moving. And especially to me as a radio guy, and the radio stations I used to listen to as a kid, I know I keep going on about this, these were pirate stations from ships. And it's all very well, you know, for the government to say, oh, disgusting. But these guys were in force 10 gales out in the sea, really. And they were young, maybe 20-year-olds, risking their lives to play us pop music. And you know, and what happened as time passed, Radio Caroline is still on the air today. And there you go. And so with that thought, I think we will. We've grossly overstayed our welcome tonight, but thank you so much to everybody who's joined us. Oh no, Paul has joined us from Colchester. Hello, Paul. We can't possibly wrap this up now that Paul has just joined us from Colchester. That would be there would be something extremely wrong about that, because we told us, especially in the context of Paul, because Paul, when we had this get together about. I don't know, it'd be about 7 weeks ago, wouldn't it, since we've been in lockdown since then. It was just about the time the lockdown started. And we got together with Paul virtually. Having not met Paul, I hadn't met Paul for an awfully long time. It was about 1980 something, and probably the very early 1980s. So that's about 40 years ago, sort of 35 to 40 years ago. I hadn't seen Paul since. And then at the end of the conversation, he goes, "Well, what time do you do these daily lives?" And I said 7 o'clock. And so here we are. Here we are at 3 minutes to 10, and we're doing it, and it's an hour-long thing, so I think we're a bit on the late side. But, again, that would be a question to ask at the podium, isn't it? And the spin doctor would say something like, we endeavour to always deliver on time to the best of our ability, but it must be remembered that circumstances change on a daily basis, and that we are using our very best regards to blah, 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 blah. And with that, I will have to unfortunately go because Emma's getting fidgety. Do you know how it is like in school when the teacher's doing this maths lesson and the kid in the front row has already put everything away and the pen's gone, the books have gone, the glasses have gone, the phone's all put away, everything's folded up. So I think I'm getting a hint here.
No, you continue. I was just prepping.
Okay, a hint where I can't possibly, unless anybody else has joined. Kevin says, a few things from Kevin, which is always terrifically helpful. Kevin helps me through the rock show every week as well, and about half the things I say are stuff that he's found out. So thank you so much. And I'm not able to tell Kevin in advance even what songs I'm going to play because I don't know. I sort of play some song and it reminds me of another one, and it just sort of bounces around that show. So whenever I plan it, it doesn't sound all that good. So Kevin says, here's a quote from Little Richard. "I don't think a woman has to act like a man to show that she has strength." That is so wise. I'm going to change my Facebook status today, right now, as soon as I come off. That's a brilliant one.
That's a brilliant one. That's
what
very
an
good
extraordinary sentiment. Thank you so much. And there's one final thought. And a very good evening to you, Corinna. Thank you for joining us this evening. We're just
call him Miss Molly.
We're just reflecting on the fact that the sad news, which you may not have heard, that little Richard left the building today, aged, I think, was he 87, having lived a ripe old age, but one of the real absolute pioneers of rock and roll, somebody who brought the showmanship into it as well as the music. He had this very flamboyant and outgoing stage presence. He had a whole string of hits. And along with people like Elvis, all those people who were there back in the day when it started, you could name them. And Chuck Berry, you could name them on sort of 5 fingers of your hand. You could name these pioneers of rock and roll. None of them with us anymore. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying that Little Richard is the last of these great iconic figures to check out of the building. Good golly, Miss Molly, says Cal. Long Tong Sally, Tutti Frutti, oh Rudy, and fabulous tunes. I'm going to see if there are, just quickly, Emma's going to kill me, but I'm just going to see, I hope this is all right with you, I'm going to see if there are any obits of Little Richard on the newspapers. I don't know why I typed Emma into the search engine when I meant Little Richard, but that's one of those things that you get when you, I think it would be appropriate and fitting to do that. I mean, again, my rock show is turning into a sort of big obit because we were playing some Stranglers songs last week. I think we'll be playing some Little Richard songs this week. In that year 2016, when lots and lots of rockers were sadly passing, I made a point on the rock show of only paying homage to one or two. We paid homage to David Bowie, obviously to Lemmy and the like, but I think in the current pandemic, it makes sense to pay tribute to each fallen soul. We have a lot of stuff here on the interwebs about Little Richard. Interesting. It doesn't give me a chance to look for news stories about him, but Rolling Stone magazine calls him the founding father of rock, which I think is a fantastic thing. They also say I majored in mouth. He certainly wasn't a quiet individual, if you like. The former Beach Boy, Brian Wilson, pays tribute to Little Richard. I'm very sorry to hear about Little Richard. He was there at the beginning and showed us all how to rock and roll. He was such a great talent and he will be missed. Little Richard's music will last forever. Love and mercy, Brian. Bobby Dylan says, I've just heard the news about little Richard and I'm so grieved. He was my shining star and guiding light back when I was only a little boy. He was the original spirit that moved me to do everything I would do. Wow,
Wow.
Bobby Dylan, huh? Keith Richards, so sad to hear that my old friend Little Richard has passed. There will never be another. He was the true spirit of rock and roll. And you know there are so many of these. Mick Jagger has paid tribute to Little Richard on Twitter as well, and he said, "I'm so saddened to hear about the passing of Little Richard. He was the biggest inspiration of my early life, and his music still has the same raw electric energy when you play it now as it did throughout the music scene in the mid-1950s. We were on tour with him. I would watch his act every night and learn from him how to entertain the audience, and he was always so genuine. In his advice to me, he contributed so much to popular music. I'll miss you. God bless," says Mick Jagger of his former friend. Prince says Little Richard's influence on music cannot be understated. He didn't just open doors, he smashed entire walls to pieces to make way for all of us who would come after. Rest in peace to the king of rock and roll. And I'll finally leave you with a final quote that Kevin told us from the man himself. He said, I think that what's wrong with all of us is that we don't show enough love towards each other. And on that sentiment, we'll wish you a very good night on this day 47 of lockdown. Thank you for your company. Thank you for joining us in our living room on this Saturday evening. We will definitely be back tomorrow with some more of the same. But in the meantime, do keep yourself safe and healthy. Look after each other. And from us, good night and God bless.